Hey there everyone, I'm meteorologist Cassie Nall and this is your 10 weather impact recap for the week. Let's start with a look at the top weather stories from around the country. The most impactful weather event from the past week was the multi-day severe weather and flooding setup from the Mid-South into the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. Maggie Vespa is in Kentucky with an overview of the impacts.
Battered by days of violent storms, this morning millions across the Midwest and South now facing widespread flooding.
We've never got this much rain at one time.
Flash flooding drenching multiple states, tearing apart roads and forcing rescues. In Louisville, river levels rose 5 feet in just 24 hours. Drone video showing this levee breaking in Owensboro, Kentucky near the Indiana border. Authorities say no one was hurt. And in Dawson Springs, water reaching this substation, forcing crews to temporarily cut power.
What's so striking about it?
That it hasn't stopped rising yet.
Researchers say flood events like this are growing more severe amid the climate crisis. Authorities saying in the last week, at least 21 people have died amid flooding and storms after dozens of twisters ripped through multiple states, including a 5-year-old in Arkansas killed after a tree fell on a home, and 9-year-old Gabriel Andrews swept away by flash floodwaters in Kentucky while walking to his school bus.
We are deeply saddened at this horrific tragedy.
Across the region, crews now working around the clock to help people clean up from these disasters. Kentucky farmer Austin Chappell is still rebuilding after losing his home to a tornado last May. He's now using this boat to feed his cattle, stranded on higher ground.
The Lord gave us some cattle, and it's our duty to take care of them.
Protect them.
Yeah.
Some of the rainfall totals with last week's system were truly historic. 1 in 1,000 year totals were observed in parts of the Mid-South, meaning that rain of that magnitude only has a 0.1% chance of occurring in any given year. But it doesn't mean that it can only occur once every 1,000 years. Over 15 inches of rain fell in parts of Kentucky, while totals of more than a foot were reported in Arkansas and Tennessee. All that water has now drained into local rivers, bringing many into major flood stage. In East Tennessee, we were spared from the worst of the impacts from that system. For the most part, we just saw some beneficial rainfall, and the latest drought monitor does not take that most recent rain into account. But thanks to the rain that we had at the end of March, we no longer have drought conditions in our viewing area. That yellow color that you see there, it does still show where we have abnormally dry conditions, but when the new monitor comes out later this week, I think we may see some improvement in those areas as well. By the averages, spring, which includes March, April, and May, is our second wettest season of the year. So the rainfall that we see now is important to get moisture in the ground before the heat of summer arrives. The Atlantic hurricane season begins on June 1st, and Colorado State University has released their first outlook for the 2025 season. Their forecast calls for above average activity with 17 named storms, 9 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes. Average numbers are 14 named storms, with 7 of those becoming hurricanes and 3 reaching Category 3 major hurricane status. Warm sea surface temperatures and a chance for ENSO neutral or possibly La Nina conditions are 2 of the factors leading to the above average forecast for this hurricane season. The World Meteorological Organization Hurricane Committee has retired the names Beryl, Helene, and Milton. There are 6 lists of names that are used each hurricane season, and the names are retired when a storm is exceptionally deadly or destructive. Beryl was the earliest Category 5 hurricane on record and had major impacts across the Caribbean. Helene and Milton caused catastrophic damage across portions of the United States, including in Tennessee and western North Carolina. Those names will be replaced with Brianna, Holly, and Miguel when the next list is used in 2030. People in Cocke County are still working to recover from the impacts from Hurricane Helene last fall. One business owner took it upon himself to help victims in need of new housing. Maria Guzman shares how neighbors are not giving up on their community.
I just felt that's what we were led to do. I felt like I needed to do something.
Cosby native Chris Gregg manages this construction company in Cocke County. Ever since Hurricane Helene rocked his community, he's turned his site into a lifeline for flood victims.
I could make a difference in some people.
His business has served as a shelter, a food distribution center, and now a spot for campers. With the help of two Good Samaritans from Wisconsin, they've collected campers to donate to flood victims.
That one lady and her friend done all the work involved in organizing, getting them here. Before they even get here, they get cleaned, they get fully stocked.
And the demand continues to grow.
Well, it went from that one camper to now we're at 43. I have placed a total of 30.
Chris says the campers serve as an anchor for flood victims still without a home.
We had people in tents, and how they made it, I don't know. 20s and 30s, I would not be able to do that.
Jessica James says if it wasn't for these campers, people would still be in tents.
I'm afraid that they would be homeless, and really it's untold where they would be, honestly, because we've went through some cold winters and some hard rains since then, so.
She says without access to campers, people have no choice but to stay in their flooded homes.
That they're living in mold, they're living in water, they're just not good living conditions.
Volunteers say the cry for help goes beyond the human eye.
They're getting by day, struggle by struggle, hurdle by hurdle.
In western North Carolina, Hot Springs is a popular tourist destination and a stop along the Appalachian Trail. The small mountain town was devastated when Helene hit the area. Aaron Velasquez shares how folks in that community are doing 6 months after the catastrophic flooding.
It destroyed the town, our businesses, but at the same time, that day brought this community together.
In the small mountain town of Hot Springs, North Carolina, glimmers of hope are finally starting to return amid the destruction from Helene.
From any disaster, I think good things happen. So it won't be the same, but this town is going to be stronger than it ever was.
While many businesses still remain closed with their futures up in the air, Big Pillow Brewing has reopened partially, and the town hopes it will be the first of many.
Just recently, we've been able to get close enough to reopen on weekends, and that's kind of changed the outlook a little bit.
During the past 6 months, the community experienced the holidays just a bit differently.
I didn't see many costumes on Halloween this year.
However, they did come together to celebrate Christmas with a community potluck.
We expected maybe 60 or 70 people, but we wound up having over 200 people here having a potluck on Christmas Day, and that was really touching.
While the recovery continues,
I'm now just trying to concentrate on the town's, the municipality's issues, but still be there for all of our businesses, do what I can.
The town finally sees a light at the end of the tunnel.
We're getting to that point where we're kind of ready for full-on tourists to come back. I don't think we're quite there yet.
But for some, the town won't feel fully back in action until all the businesses return.
And I have hope that within the next 6 months, every street on this, every door on this street is going to be open. Every business will be able to welcome you in and say welcome to Hot Springs.
In Asheville, North Carolina, a critical stretch of roadway that was damaged during Helene has finally reopened. Crews say after 6 months of repairs, Swannanoa River Road is finally open for travelers. The roadway reconnects several neighborhoods across Asheville and is expected to help ease traffic on some major highways and interstates.
So, I mean, it should help with I-240 traffic, I-40 traffic. This corridor connects a tunnel road to Biltmore, so it'll just hopefully help the businesses and draw interest back to the community in Western North Carolina here in Asheville.
In the days following Hurricane Helene last fall, teams from WBIR went to North Carolina to cover the widespread damage and to share the stories of those in need of assistance in recovery. 6 months later, visual storyteller William Winnett and anchor Abby Ham went back to Asheville and the surrounding communities. Their documentary, 96 Hours in Asheville, The Recovery, tells the stories of the progress that's been made and shows how these resilient communities are still working to recover from that catastrophic flooding last fall. You can watch their coverage now on the WBIR Plus app for free on your TV. New research shows that warming temperatures are accelerating impacts of a changing climate in Antarctica. But what happens near the South Pole impacts the rest of the globe, influencing weather patterns and our food supply too. Chase Kane traveled to the frozen continent to see just how connected it is to our lives back home in the United States.
9,000 miles away, at the bottom of the planet, a trip to Antarctica might feel less like crossing the ocean and more like crossing the galaxy.
And this feels like the closest we might ever get to experiencing another planet.
When I first tried to describe Antarctica, you see this. Or when I hoped its residents would play along.
So this looks like a healthy, happy seal, but actually in this region near Antarctica, we went away.
I felt the challenge of squeezing this place into a screen.
It's a kind of a magic place. You know, it grabs you.
James Barnes co-founded the Antarctic and Southern Ocean Coalition in 1978 to help conserve and protect a place that is not just environmentally unique, but politically unique. No country owns it. Instead, it's common ground with a common goal: science.
On a larger scale, too, it's about friendship. The friendship between nations that are not maybe naturally friends. And so what they can cooperate on is science, and the science there is so crucial to our future.
The discovery in Antarctica.
And a lesson from the 1980s proved just how true that is.
It is an unprecedented event.
Only 2 years after Antarctic scientists discovered the hole in the ozone layer, the world banded together to solve the problem. Now, NASA says the ozone hole should fully heal within our lifetime. It is a sign of what's possible, but also a cautionary tale not to ignore what's happening here.
Interacts with climate change, especially the Antarctica.
Tourists who make the trip with HX expeditions see the truth of climate change firsthand.
All the way down, yeah.
Often braving tough conditions to collect samples and data for scientists around the world.
Allowing people to understand the consequences of changes into a system. I mean, everything is connected. Everything needs to be in a balance, right? And
Verena Maraldi created HX's science program 7 years ago. And today it supports scientists from dozens of universities researching things like how krill,
and you see the facets,
a critical food source for Antarctic wildlife, are becoming more scarce. And that is creating ripple effects for fisheries in the U.S. So basically what happens here impacts everything from our food to flooding along our coasts.
We often think what happens at the poles stays at the poles, but that is not true. We live on a planet where everything is connected. And in fact, sea level is rising twice as fast now as it was just 25 years ago because all of that ice is melting so fast.
In the next 25 years, NOAA projects sea levels will rise up to 8 inches along the west coast and up to 1.5 feet along the Gulf. And a lot of that extra water is flowing to our shores from Antarctica, where as ice melts into the Southern Ocean, it also changes the water temperature, which can change ocean currents. And those drive weather patterns all the way back home, putting everyone from firefighters to farmers on the front lines of climate change. And Antarctica shows how it's all intertwined.
Make those connections between the dangers that are happening and also the beauty of what we need to preserve. I mean, when you're kayaking up front with the whale, where you see the glaciers and the magical ice, you just want to protect it. Like, you're going to go, I have to protect that.
Showing this place can change you as much as we've changed it. From Antarctica, I'm National Climate Reporter Chase Kane.
As we move through the spring season in East Tennessee, each of the cold snaps has a name. These are known as little winters, and what we call them usually coincides with what happens to be blooming at the time. Redbud winter comes first, followed by dogwood, locust, blackberry, and britches winter, named for the Lindsay Woolsey long underwear, as in get out your britches one more time for that final cold snap of the season. Now, some folks also include whippoorwill winter in there as well. We may not have all of these little winters each and every year, and the name of the cold snap may vary from place to place depending on what's blooming, but this is a fun and unique aspect of weather folklore in East Tennessee. The April full moon will rise this Saturday evening. The full pink moon is named for the creeping phlox flowers that bloom this time of year. And as of now, it looks like the weather may cooperate for some decent viewing conditions as we go into the weekend. Let's get a check of that 7-day forecast for you. We do have a chance for showers and some thunderstorms. A few of them could be a little bit strong with some hail. Thursday afternoon and evening, the rain showers will linger into Friday, and actually Friday night, some of the higher elevations of the Smokies could see a couple inches of snow above about 3,000 feet with that colder air coming in. We'll still be running below average as we go through Saturday and Sunday this weekend, but highs are back in the 70s as we go into next week. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, you can always get the latest forecast in the 10 News app. It's free to download in the App Store.